Hello and welcome to my Ramble Part 2 on ModelV. I've spent a bit more time on the PowerPoint this time, and I've sort of taken screenshots of the various parts of the model of this graphic. I'm just going to run through them. I've also written some of my own ideas on the subfunctions. So yeah, I'll just get into it. So I've got a couple of notes on the side here. First off, about the name change for the functions. So previously, functions, I think, commonly are called, for example, with NE, they are called extroverted intuition. But they've been changed here to extroverting, intuiting. So it's a process, they're verbs. And that's really just a more accurate description of what's going on. The intuition is occurring and then being expressed outwardly in an extroverted manner. So yeah, I like it. It's more accurate. It aids understanding and explanation. Good all round. Pedantic. I like it. And then also I just heard on a podcast about this idea of a Buddhist idea of the two truths doctrine, which talks about absolute truth versus relative truth. And to me, that corresponds to objective and relative. And so it's just interesting to see those ideas, regardless of the name, expressed elsewhere. So yeah, just a little interesting tidbit for you. So on to these columns, these columns of functions: blue, green, red, purple. So in your wheelhouse, I mean, that's the bread and butter of typology, really. That's of the Jungian stuff. I don't think it's really anything to talk about there. It's fairly not set in stone, what's the word, agreed upon. The big change, though, from Model G is this green column, unsigned allies / growth. Now, initially I kind of had a problem with kind of changing the energy dynamic, removing it from the theory. And I liked having Fe as a high energy function in the INTP type. It made sense to me. However, alongside this club functions idea, which I'll get onto soon, I think it's also really consistent to have TE in a column with Ni. I think both those functions, they share a lot of characteristics. So they're both excuse me, they're both unvalued, and that's a change from Model G, where the valued and unvalued functions were kind of all over the place. They didn't fit into their own columns, so I like having that shared within these columns. And I like having TE in INTP being in the same club, in the same kind of high energy, not high energy, but having TE and TI in one club together and being expressed together in this type, and that goes for every type. So both thinking functions will always appear in the same kind of club. And I said this last time, but having the dominant and auxiliary functions also alongside their anti-verted functions, so Ti with T, Ne with Ni, Si with Se, Fe with Fi. I think that fits better with, I think, basically how people generally are. But I realise that's quite abstract, so I'll kind of move on. This hot for column, again, both valued. I like that. Relates to the dual of the type. That's also good. And yeah, this disdained column. So initially I didn't quite get why, for example, in INTP, Fi would be alongside Se. I saw Fi as a function which I was reasonably competent in, whereas Se was, way worse. It didn't feel like a great combination. However, this this last few sentences that Ben's written that I've highlighted with the blue square kind of changed my mind on it. So he talks about the idea of mindsets, where you group together perceiving and judging functions and into their introverted and extroverted variants. So if a type's a TI dominant, it's going to be good with the introverted judging mindset, and I like that. And it kind of, it's a shame it's not really in the system. There's no in-system kind of expression of that here. Maybe there is, but so far I can't really see it. And then this final explanation where Ben says to him FI is more important than FE, but he enjoys being in an FE state more than FI. So that fits. I get that now with the disdained label. Like, yeah, FE, to go short on the explanation, I do find it unpleasant in a certain way, more so than FE. So yeah, I like that column as well. I think there's a lot going for it. Oh yeah, I put my own Enneagram here. So I think, and this is just from some online test because I know nothing about Enneagram, it seems to think I'm 694. So there you go, for personal interest there. Okay, club functions. So this will vary between types, but the concept is group together functions. So in an SF, all the sensing and feeling type functions will be in one club together in one box. I like that. I've kind of explained it a bit already, but yeah, that's the word vertness. They're the same vertness as the type. Default club functions 1 and 3. Yeah. So not much more to say about that really. All the explanation's good. It's good reading. I kind of agree. And then counter club, so an NT. Well, the counter clubs, yeah, it's just all the other functions go in there. So dabbling, I totally agree with that function slot. I think dabblings are great. It's just everyone knows what you talk about what you're talking about when you say dabbling. And also with the eyes bigger than the belly, that's another great saying, I suppose. Everyone knows what you're talking about there. And alongside this idea about pretentiousness, where someone tries to appear sort of better than they are, or they think they're better than they are. It all fits together really. So, and especially alongside the hot for idea, someone who dabbles in something, they kind of have some kind of interest or lust for a function, but they don't have the necessary willpower to fully pursue it. So that if they see someone who is able to do that, that'll be attractive essentially. So it fits together there. I like it. Yeah, and beneficiary shift. I was interested about this being included. I'm not sure why this specific idea is in here, but I think what it's describing is when function 5 and function 1 swap around. Yeah, I mean, obviously people are going to change their apparent type or their apparent processes in certain situations. Yeah, but this seems to be one that's a shift that's particularly apparent, so that's interesting. So yeah, NT club functions, again, not much to say on this. Oh no, got a lot to say on this. So yeah, so first off, the extreme introvert versus extreme introvert versus moderate introvert. This introversion and extroversion is a spectrum. I like it. Some people are going to find it easier to swap to their situational functions, their less habitual functions. Yeah, and then the information energy idea borrowed from Model G. So slot 4, as I was talking about before, being high in ability, high in information, but low in energy or motivation, as it's described here. Yeah, I think that's a really, it reduces the amount of thinking you need to do, or the amount of words you need to do to express the characteristics of a function. If you say the dominant function is high in energy and high in information, it's very descriptive. Whereas if you say high in information, low in motivation, low in energy, that's also quite descriptive. So that function would be, I think there's an example here. Key assertion is that higher information has about a function-related task, the more understanding and know-how one has. This leads to a higher task efficiency, lower effort to effect ratio for something that type assembler is not overly keen about doing. So type's not particularly keen about TE, but they're going to be really efficient when they do it. Effort required versus motivation to spend effort. So yeah, you might be really good at it, very effective. And there's a kind of chicken and egg idea there as well, where if you really, let's say you hate doing something, you're going to learn tactics to get it over with, basically. So that makes sense to me as well. I think I didn't finish a thought there, but I hope you get the idea. And then this situational counter club. Yeah, so these are the two. If I go back again, FE and SE. So you'd think in an introvert, or you think in any type, these two functions would be the worst. They're low information, low energy. Overall, as an average. Yeah, so here it's expressed here as well. Opposite alertness from the default row and in the counter club rather than the club. So weakness is unsurprising. Yeah. Stuff here about suggestible inferior idea. So yeah, I generally, that makes sense to me. Conscious orientation. Yeah, I might need to look into this Vanderhoop guy, but I've barely got through Young yet, let alone any of his disciples. Achilles heel, yes, so this is what I was going to say. So this idea about the number 8 slot, the Achilles heel, the averse, the polar as it's known, being a very binary function. I think that is a brilliant descriptor and just so obvious to me. And I think it really, it's just such a neat explanation, and I think it just fits in so many situations I think of where a person is, they're all or nothing. They have no sense of degree in certain functions, in certain situations, and I just almost wish that every slot had one characteristic that was just so neat. So yeah, I really like it. I mean, I don't even feel like saying much more about it because I just find that binary idea being, I find it so descriptive. But there was something else about it, which I thought was good. Let me see. Too much, too little. Let me just read this bit here. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. But there's other aspects to it which cement it as a nice rigid function slot. Okay, next. So this is the bit that hooked me initially about Model G, where just having the introverted functions and extroverted functions as operating modes, I liked. Excuse me. I don't have COVID. It's just a strange cough. So yeah, I'll start off with the blue box that I have highlighted. So yeah, so I thought this was a really nice way of describing introversion, where the subject places more attention to the subjective reaction to external stimulus than the external stimulus itself. So it's the idea of you see something, you have a subjective reaction to it that might differ to other people. For example, I think this might be a quite SI thing to do, where if you look at a certain flower, you can either, you know, pick up the flower and say, "Oh, smell this flower," and everyone can smell it and it's lovely. Or you can say, "Oh, my grandmother loved those flowers." The second example is a much more subjective reaction to it, and that subjective internal link going on there is being perceived more than the objective extroverted ideas about the flower. So yeah, I think it's a really neat way of putting it. And there's Jung's ideas on it. Yeah, subjective versus objective. I won't bother going through that. Yeah, not much to say about that really. I think it's all good. And then yeah, situational. So certain situations draw on certain faculties which are opposite vertness to the type. Opposite verting, more verbifying there, to the type, e.g. situations which draw on the extroverting functions. Yeah, so with Model G, there was almost this implication that introverted functions could be used in any situation, which I don't think is true. Like, some situations obviously call for specific functions. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but there was something going on there, and I do like the change there. Dynamically altering between the two, yeah. And there's a spectrum, hence resembling. I do like it. Oh yeah, that was a good point. So the doing atypical things in a typical way, yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's actually quite a good indicator of type. If you watch someone do something they're not used to doing, or it's not in their particular what they normally be doing. Yeah. So that's it. For that section. Oh yeah, and this is for extroverts. Oh, so for the extroverted reference type. Yeah, not much there. I like the description of instinct in there. But yeah, I think I'll skip past this. Okay, yeah, this is just the functions laid out if I needed it. I don't think I do. I'll just go through the names. So differentiated, dominant, differentiated. So that's a quite Jungian idea. And it comes up in Dario Nardi's book, The Magic Diamond. Essentially, the idea is related to the idea of specialization. Yeah, where that's the way this type habitually gets through the world. That's their right hand, and I suppose number 8 slot would be the left hand, maybe. Yeah, fish is water. Again, like I like the idea. I agree with it. But I think I'd need to pay attention to that idea when observing other people to really get a handle on exactly how that slot manifests. Dabbling tertiary, I find stimulating, but eyes bigger than belly. Yeah, that's great. I like it. It fits with whenever I've tried to apply it. Contrarian alternative, I had to be convinced of that, but I like it, and I think it fits with SE in that specific way, where it's disdained. Showy auxiliary, yeah. Backseat driver, that's good as well, where yeah, it's a great description. Low energy, high information. It's going to be a backseat driver. Suggestible inferior. Yeah. I'd like to use more examples that aren't just myself, but yeah, I do find myself suggestible in that way. And then binary, I've talked at length about that already. I like it, so yeah. So I went through and thought about some of the subfunctions for each type, and I tried to kind of, I suppose, condense it for my own thinking, and just to kind of, yeah, I like the idea of short descriptions of each one, and I think in trying to condense them, I think that's a good exercise in really understanding what they are in essence. So SE, attaining and remaining in a favourable physical position. I think that's fairly self-explanatory. That's what I've been trying to do with the wording. So it's being aware of your surroundings. It's being near the door, kind of thing. It's like you want to be physically in a place where you can deal with, where you can do the most or be most effective. If you're at a concert, you want to be at the front. That sort of thing. Harmonizing, adaptation to the environment. So I think I took that from here. Yeah, adaptation to circumstances. Immersion. Yeah, I remember writing this, but I don't remember exactly my rationale for it. Adaptation to the environment. I'll have to leave that one. Creative, creating a vibrant, exciting, intense environment. So if you are someone who is good at being very physically present and instincting and all that, you're going to know how to create an environment that's stimulating because you're more aware of that in general. Yeah. Okay. SI, assertive, enforcing one's own comfort. So it's almost selfish in a way. One could say if it's done improperly. Saying, look, like knowing exactly what would make you comfortable and fighting for it. I think I would put that under assertive SI. And stabilizing the environment as well. So that was taken from Ben's wording on the right. Yeah, to make regular schedule. Yeah, making the environment predictable, I suppose. Harmonizing physical comfort and health. So this would be someone who is concerned with not being injured, with being physically comfortable, warm, fed, etc. And I suppose that moves on to, that relates to doing that to others as well, but maybe that's only alongside FE. Or I think empathy is almost separate to functions. I think people often put it with instincting and feeling. But yeah, I see it almost as separate to functions sometimes. I have to elaborate on that further at some point. And imaginative, having a repository of experiences. So SI, they remember exactly what that rotten apple tasted like and whatnot. They have a good memory, I suppose. So yeah. Okay, NE, actively exploring possibilities. I think that's a really concise way of putting it. Harmonizing, seeing things from different points of view. I like that as well. I think that's yeah, I think that fits. And then creative, this trans-contextual thinking, distant analogies and equivalences. Yeah, I like it. Analogy, metaphor. Yeah, not much to say about that. I think if I'm reading it and I'm happy with each one, and yeah. Okay, next. And I. Oh, I forgot to fill this in. Belief in the achievability of a future goal. So let's say someone's just so sure that that renewable energy is going to be the way to go, and even though now it's more economical to open this coal power plant, which it probably isn't anymore, but let's say 10 years ago the coal was still a bit cheaper, they would say, no, 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 like, we cannot do that. It's going to change to renewable. They believe it's going to happen, they know it's going to happen, and they change what's happening now for that future goal. I think that's an idea that fits in a bubble to me, and I think putting that under assertive NI fits. Harmonizing NI, yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah, I didn't have much to say with that. And then imaginative, again, like, it just doesn't work in my head. I really struggled to. And I suppose just saying, yeah, those aha, eureka moments for imaginative works. Yeah, still a bit stumped on this one. TE, assertive. I was really happy with how concise I got these. Assertive, natural selection. And that relates to the kind of business capitalism thing where if it's uneconomical, if it's not, no one's going to pay for it. If it can't survive, it can't pass on its genes, get rid of it. It's not good enough. It's not efficient. It's not going to work. Natural selection, I think, is a great way of describing that. And I think that's the essence of assertive TE. Harmonizing, utilitarianism. So this relates to that pragmatic compromises thing, where they're good at evaluating. TE is a function that evaluates the. It's a function that evaluates the level of benefit to. Let's say there's two parties involved. They can take disparate. TE takes. Let's say one wants chickens, one wants cows. They're quite good at saying, oh, well, one cow's equivalent to 20 chickens, and there's a balance going on there. Yeah, pragmatic compromises. I explained it in the last video, but I think utilitarianism fits there nicely in my head. Creative problem solving, inventing. They see a problem that needs solving and solve it. I think that's, yeah, not much more to say. I think it's that's my thoughts on the TE subfunctions. TI, consistent logic using the most consistent variables. So TI almost aims to make everything comparable using consistent characteristics. And that logic of uniform structure, yeah, I think that's uniform field. Yeah, being right within its own internal logic. Harmonizing, integration of theories and perspectives. Yeah, to almost get closer to reality. I think harmonizing, it works in that way. So yeah, that's very close. In fact, exactly what Ben said. And imaginative thought experiments. I'd maybe, yeah, expediency, efficiency, yeah, maybe not. Maybe remove that. But thought experiments, certainly. Okay, FE. Yeah, I had fun with this one. So, demonstrative or dramatic emotions. Yeah, totally. Harmonizing, group harmony. Yeah, so group harmony. Oh, that's the exact word. Navigating group emotions to maintain the Overton window. So, to explain, if you're at a party, there's maybe one or two people that want to talk about Syria or talk about the Holocaust, but the Overton window of that party, talking about the Holocaust is so outside of it, it's not going to mean that the group emotional window is just, it doesn't fit within that. So FE, I think, is almost, yeah, understanding what the emotional vibe of a room is and navigating it properly, not being able to navigate it, judging what's right for that situation emotionally. Yeah, I was happy with that. Yeah, bringing the Overton window into it. I think is that anything to do or a TI thing? Any, maybe. Anyway, and creative, expressing and communicating emotions. And again, I used another NE analogy here. So horizontal emotion transfer, where FE is I think it's a function that's good at making other people feel what you feel, or kind of, yeah, it's maybe not exactly right, but yeah, being able to express and communicate emotions, I think I would maybe put under the creative part of this. Yeah. Oh yeah, and music. I think that's creative FE. But yeah, there's a bit of overlap with FI where, yeah, so assertive FI will, yeah, okay, if the group's on board, the group's on board, that's fine, no assertion needed. But if the group is doing something that differs to the internal ethics of someone and they're strong in FI, they use this assertive FI, then yeah, they're going to be defying that group harmony for this kind of internal idea, this internal principles. Yeah, I think there's more to it than that, but initially that paints a picture for me, and it fits in its own box. Harmonizing principles to facilitate harmony. Yeah, so what I was thinking was, FI, in the same way that TI wants to create a system that kind of, what did I say, wants to integrate theories and perspectives, harmonizing FI would want to generate ethical principles that overall facilitate group harmony. So even if so that if the external map isn't very conclusive, if someone can look at the emotions of a room and be like, oh, I'm not sure what's going on, they could look to their internal FI and say, okay, this is what's right to do in this situation. Yeah, the general thing of, it's hard to describe, but acting in a way that, it's a set of principles. It's manners, I guess. Yeah, is what I'm saying. Okay, and imaginative, imagining how someone else might feel. Okay, yeah, putting yourself in the place of a character. Yeah. So it's kind of, let's say someone gets, I don't know. Let's say a group witnesses a tree falling over. There's the experience of the tree falling over. I suppose it'll be a big event, right? So FE, everyone will be like, wow, these are so bad. But let's say you know that one of the people in the group, their dad's a lumberjack, or a tree fell on their car the other week. The connection would be made there that that person might feel differently about the event and what's going on in front of them. Something like that. And passive art, yeah. So I like this explanation where FI person is going to be able to paint a painting and not be there to show the painting in a certain way. They're not gonna have to alter the painting for different people, that sort of thing. They're just going to be able to create this passive piece of art that will give off a consistent feeling, make people feel a certain way. I think that's imaginative FI in my head. Obviously, none of these descriptions are perfect. This is the end of the PowerPoint, by the way. Ooh, spooky. Yeah, so I just thought I'd have a bit of fun and try and write my own descriptions. And yeah, I hope it's interesting. Thanks for updating your model so often, Ben. I could barely keep up. I think there were small changes, but still, I was swapping this one in and out on this PowerPoint over the last couple of days. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'll cut it off now before it gets too long. And I hope that was entertaining. Goodbye.